Good morning. I would like to welcome you all to this virtual press conference as BK Group presents its audited financial performance results for the period that ended on 31st December 2023. My name is Bob Rutaringwa and I'll be moderating this virtual press conference. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Now with us today we have our speakers, BK Group CEO, Berta Habyarimana, Bank of Kigali CEO, Dr. Diane Karusisi, and BK Group CFO, Anita Umuhire, who will take us through the financial results. Now, after the presentation of the results, we will definitely have a Q&A session where we will be receiving questions, and then they'll be answered by our speakers. Now, without further ado, allow me to invite BK Group CEO, Berta Habyarimana, for her opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning and welcome to this session to all the media representatives we have on the call. We are happy to provide a high-level overview of BK Group performances for the financial year 2023. And of course, we take you through our figures, but also on the performance of different companies we have and what happened or what took place in 2023. But before we go to that stage, we have also been happy to record on the global stage, on the African stage, as well as the domestic economic environment, that resilience is still there, as well as the economic growth, where the market operating kept recording a good economic growth, even higher than what we have in the EAC, on the continent and globally, with the Rwandan economic growth of at least 8.2% for 2023. This comes supporting all the initiatives BK Group has been putting in place in terms of business. But of course, we are still facing the global challenges in a moderate way, but still there, like weather shocks as well as supply chain issues. We have also been recording throughout the year inflation pressure and the depreciation of against the USD, but we're really happy to see some ease on seeing the inflation dropping down at the end of the year 2023, and expect it to keep going down in 2024. I would also like to highlight that BK Group, in the different investment activities I've done, it was in parallel with the key drivers of the economic sectors. In particular, sports, tourism, and the MICE strategy, but also expect to see them keeping growing and the trajectory being very optimistic. We also do expect, according to the information we got from the authorities, to have a better harvest for these seasons, which also supports the consumer power. But of course, like many other countries, I've seen the balance trade widening, and this puts some pressure on the FX availability. But in terms of positioning, we're happy to confirm that BK Group remains the financial leading entity for 2023 on the market. And we are pleased to announce that we have a good performance for 2023, with recording a profit of 74.8 billion Rwandan francs, which is approximately $59 million, and which also translates to 25% growth year on year. We have also continued good records of return on equity and return on assets. And we have also been witnessing that all the BK's companies have recorded a good performance in growth, be it in revenues or in expansion. In particular, we're happy to see that with BK Capital, one thing you can share is that they have been arranging a successful issuance of BRD sustainability linked bond, which was something first of its kind, and being able to advise a significant amount of transactions, becoming a major player in the growth of the financial hub in Rwanda. For BKGI, among different activities we find in the press release, we're happy to see that they have been the lead provider in agricultural produce insurance with a growth of 33%. For the BK Tech House, I hope many know the payment gateways we have, but happy to see that like Urubuto has been growing for 166% in terms of volume transactions. But in particular, I would like to talk about the foundation, which she created at the beginning of 2023, and which has been impacting our communities in education, empowering women, integrating e-mobility. And we are happy to see that we have also submitted a report on the foundation you can find on our social media for further details. I would also to commend the staff and the directors of BK Group who during the 2023 have been able to raise from their own pockets 127 million francs to support the victims of natural disasters that took place in Rwanda in May 2023. We expect for the future outlook to have more convenience in our services, more digital services, more customer engaging. We are committed to a sustained growth and for our investors' return and their earnings on our BK shares. And we also expect to see BK having more engagement in sustainable finance. I think in brief is what I would like to say for the group, and Diane will take us through the highlights of the bank as well as Anita for the financial figures we have published. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beata. I'm also happy to be on this call and to share the results of the bank and the group in the past year. I think as everyone will see in the press release, for the first time we are recording a profit before tax above the mark of 100 billion, at 109 billion, which is significant, and it's a growth of 23.8%. This is driven by a growth in our non-interest income, primarily, 34.8%. I believe this is very healthy because we've been trying over the years to diversify our income away from interest income. But interest income remains the driver of our income and grew by 20% year on year in 2023. So something we are also very proud of is that we've been able to contain our costs. In the past years, we invested heavily in our systems, in our people, training, etc. And we see now the pace of the growth of our costs being lower, much lower than the growth of our income. And in 2023, we saw our costs increasing by 15.8% against a total operating income increasing by 23.6%. So this is also very healthy, showing that we are really leveraging our assets to provide income returns to our shareholders. On the balance sheet side, you will see that our total assets have grown by 14.8%, driven obviously by loans to customers, but also we've seen on the balance sheets, we've seen our shareholders' equity growing by 14.6% to 365 billion. So I think that's what I can share today, and Anita, our CFO, is going to share the details, and we look forward to engaging in the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, and good morning once again. I will briefly share some highlights for the financial performance of the year ended 31 December 2023. As mentioned, the group reported a net profit of 74.8 billion, which is a double-digit growth year-on-year of 25%. The good performance was largely supported by an increase in net interest income of 15.7% year-on-year, and this was stemming from two main factors. The first one being the loan growth, book growth of 9.7%, and secondly, an improved loan yield. Our loan yield improved by 60 basis points. This was also driven by commendable growth in the retail loan book that grew by 68 billion. The good performance was further supported by a reduction in the cost of funds. Our cost of funds improved by 60 basis points to 3.2% at the bank level. And this was really deliberate action to release costly term deposits and focus on mobilizing more cost-effective CASA. So this resulted in a lower interest expense charge for us for this year just ended. So the effect of a better loan yield and the reduced cost of funds resulted in a double-digit net interest margin of 10%. As mentioned, non-funded income also experienced a formidable consolidated growth of 34.8% year on year. It is now contributing 26.3% to total operating income, up from 24.1% the previous year. FX income at 13.9 billion is the biggest contributor to our non-funded income. However, for 2023, it contributed about 7% less than its contribution the year prior due to challenging market conditions. However, this was an opportunity for growth in other non-funded income lines, especially non-lending fees that contributed an additional 5 billion in 2023. And this was stems from an increased digital channel usage uptake, as well as higher transfer and remittance volumes. Our trade finance business also had a strong year with 68% increase in our off-balance sheet assets. Looking at expenses, operating expenses for the groups are 96 billion, which is 15.8% higher than the previous year, but it is important to note, as also touched on by Jan, that the growth is slower than observed in previous years, and our cost-to-income ratio is actually improved to 42.8%, down from 45.7% in 2022. Of course, we're adversely impacted by the depreciation of our currency against mainly the US dollar that reached 18%. So this mostly affected our IT-related expenses, the likes of licenses and maintenance, which are acquired from foreign suppliers, mainly denominated in US dollars. Our payments business, especially in cards, we also have key foreign suppliers there. So that is where we really felt the pinch of the depreciation of our currency. Personnel costs were 23.2% higher than the previous year. So our group has been growing, but also we've made some investment in our people in terms of inflation adjustment for salaries, internal promotions, training, and other initiatives geared towards really creating a conducive environment for our people and being an employer of choice. Our cost of risk at 1.5% was up from 0.9% the previous year, although still within our appetite. This resulted in an ECL of 22 billion. These were prudent provisions taken mainly on one key distressed borrower. So with this profit, ROE for the bank was 25.2%, up from 23.4% for the 2022. Our balance sheet crossed the 2 trillion Rwandan franc mark to 2.12 trillion at the end of the year, which is a year-on-year growth of 14.5%. The growth was funded by an increase in customer deposits of 28% to 1.38 trillion. As mentioned earlier, there was actually a decrease in our term deposits book. Thus, the growth was purely funded by good growth in current accounts as well as savings accounts. The funding was utilized towards the loan book growth of 9.7% that we mentioned to 1.25 trillion. As also mentioned, there's been good growth in the retail portfolio, which is also helping to reduce concentration. Our NPL increased to 4.5%, which is higher than the previous year, but still within our appetite. And this is linked to the prudent the downgrade of the key exposures that we also touched on. We also significantly increased our placements with foreign banks, especially for foreign currency funds, mainly in US dollars. I think that's what we like to share with you this morning, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Bert, and thank you, Diane, for the overview of the financial results. Now we're going into a space where we'll be receiving questions, sort of a Q&A session where we'll be receiving questions from our journalists. For any queries that you might have, kindly type them in the chat box, and then our speakers will be more than happy to respond on them. Thank you. Yes, so we have our first question. It's in Kinyarwanda, and this is Simon Kamuzinzi. Aravuga ngo, thank you. Nkuko bisanzwe mwaza kuduha incamake mu Kinyarwanda. Thank you.
Urakoze Kamuzinzi ku kibazo cyawe. Ariko n'ubundi niko twari tubivuze, twishimiye ko uno mwaka wa 2023 BK Group yabashije kugaragaza ubushobozi mu bijyanye n'ubucuruzi twakoze, ari nako twabasangije amakuru atandukanye ajyanye n'ibyo twagezeho, kwaba ari ukuba mu nyungu twagize mu bucuruzi twakoze cyangwa se ibyo twagombye gutangaho amafaranga. Ariko by'umwihariko imikorere ya BK Group ikaba yajyananye n'undi n'ubukungu buryo bwagiye butera imbere, ndetse ubukungu bw'igihugu dukoreramo u Rwanda bukaba bufite ikigero kiri hejuru mu bijyanye no gukura 8%, kiri hejuru ugereranyije no muri Afurika, muri EAC cyangwa se ku isi. Kuri twe akaba ari uburyo bwo kugira ngo tubone imbaraga mu bikorwa bitandukanye dukora ko bigenda ku murongo umwe n'imbaturabukungu, nubwo bitatuje guhura n'ibigoye nk'ibindi bigo bitandukanye, byaba ari kujyanye n'umusaruro w'igihugu cyangwa se ku buryo ibicuruzwa bigera inaha, kuko nabyo bigira icyo byongera mu mafaranga atangwa, bigatuma noneho n'ubushobozi bw'umukiriya bwagira icyo buhungabanaho. Ariko twishimiye kubona ko mu mwaka wa 2023 ibijyanye n'izamuka ry'ibiciro byacogoye bikagabanya ubukana, bikaba bituma umukiriya wacu abasha kuba yagira ubushobozi bwo guhaha bwisumbuyeho, kuko twabonye ko izamuka ry'ibiciro ryamanutse tugasoza umwaka riri hasi, ndetse tukaba twizeye ko n'uyu mwaka wa 2024 uzakomeza kumanuka. Rero ni amakuru meza, kuko aho ubushobozi umukiriya bwo kwisanzura ku buryo bwisumbuye mu bikorwa aba afite bimuteza imbere. Birumvikana ko nabyo bituma wenda habaho kugenda umuntu agongwa mu buryo butandukanye n'ubundi ku iboneka ry'amafaranga y'amadevize, kuko n'ubundi biterwa n'ibyasohotse cyangwa se n'ibyasaruwe n'ibyinjiye mu gihugu. Ariko ku buryo bw'umwihariko twaba twishimiye ko BK Group mu mikurire yayo nayo yagiye ishora imari cyangwa se ifasha abantu mu ishoramari mu bice by'ubukungu, n'ubundi aribyo bitwaye bizamuye ubukungu bw'u Rwanda, by'umwihariko urwego rwa serivisi. Tukaba twishimira rero ko uyu mwaka wa 2023 BK Group ifashe kugera ku nyungu ya miliyari 74.8 y'amanyarwanda, nabyo bitanga hafi miliyoni 59 n'igice kimwe by'amadolari. Bikaba bigaragaza rero imikurire mu nyungu ya 25% ugereranyije n'umwaka ushize. Ikindi kandi twishimiye kureba nuko buri kigo cya BK mu bigo byayo biyigize yagomeje kwagura, haba ari mu nyungu ibona cyangwa se mu kwagura ku isoko abo tugeraho. Yaba ari BK Capital yabashije kwinjira mu ishoramari, yaba ari BK General Insurance yateye intambwe mu gutanga ubwishingizi ku bihingwa by'ubuhinzi, yaba ari BK Tech House yabashije gutanga uburyo bwo kwishyura kuri telefone bwisumbuyeho bwikubye 66%, ndetse by'umwihariko na BK Foundation yashinzwe umwaka ushize, aho ikagira aho itanga ubushobozi haba mu burere mu bantu tubasha kugenera uburyo bwo kwiga barenga 400, byaba ari mu gufasha abagore kwiteza imbere, byaba ndetse no mu kwinjira mu bijyanye na e-mobility cyangwa se uburyo butangiza ibidukikije ngo kuba abantu bagira transport. Umwihariko kandi nuko na BK Bank nkuko nabyo byasobanuwe na CEO Diane yagaragaje imibare ishimishije mu mikurire iyo ariyo yose, yaba ari mu bijyanye n'inyungu yagize, yaba ari mu kwagura network aho ishobora kugera, yaba ari mu bucuruzi bw'abakiriya mu byiciro byabo bitandukanye. Ndumva wenda muri rusange nicyo nabasha kubagezaho mu bijyanye n'icyo BK Group ibashije kugeraho muri uno mwaka. Twiteguye ko umwaka utaha uzarushaho kuba twashyikira ku bakiriya ku buryo bworoshye, aho kandi tunakoresha ikoranabuhanga ku buryo bwisumbuyeho.
Murakoze cyane CEO Berta for that update no kuba mumusubije neza. Hanyuma dufite ikindi kibazo from Alice Kagina from the New Times, and she's asking, what was the impact of interbank rate increase to 7.5% on BK? If not yet, what is the outlook over the coming months? I think he has 2 questions, and the next one is, last year you announced a 150 billion financing to be injected in the agricultural sector. What developments are there in this regard? Diane, you want to take this?
Thank you for the questions. On the interbank rate, indeed, it has increased to 7.5%. And this also goes with increasing T-bills rate that we see on the market. Because the bank is very liquid, we actually find ourselves lending more to other banks and also making more placements in government securities, T-bills and T-bonds. And as a result, when rates increase, we also increase our return on these placements. So this has increased the return in these placements. When we publish interest income, it is interest income from loans, but also from placement. And you've seen that interest income has increased significantly by 20%. So this is reflective of the prevailing rates on the market. When they're higher, we also get higher returns. So that's the question on interbank rates. The second question was in agriculture. We've seen our agribusiness loan book growing significantly, actually by 100% year on year. And if you followed the recent news, we also signed a line of credit with the European Investment Bank worth $100 million that is going to be deployed into the agricultural sector. So we are making a lot of headroom in our agribusiness, growing the loan book, but also engaging partners, getting lines of credit and facilities to be able to support our agribusiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO Diane, for that great response. Do we have any further questions? I encourage, if we have any further questions, we could please chat them in the chat box. But this is also another reminder that BK yesterday launched the Nanjini Beka campaign. Perhaps CEO Diane, do you want to speak into that briefly? Yes.
Yes, with pleasure. I think for the people who followed, we launched a campaign, Nanjini Beka, where we are trying to build a community of people who will join us in the journey of growing their wealth, investing in themselves, and building assets and wealth. So this is a journey that started some years back, where we did some introspection, understanding who we are, what we want to be, and it led to a lot of change within the bank, mainly cultural change, see how we can work better, how we can be better people within BK. We also worked, as you know, significantly, we invested significantly in our technology. We built channels internally by Rwandans, for Rwandans. I think we now have, we believe, great channels, and we want these channels to support Rwandans in accessing banking services. And finally, we re-engineered our products because we want them to be more affordable and accessible. As you've seen, if you followed, we've slashed the prices for many transactions. We no longer request people to pay for holding an account with us and depositing with us. So we've reviewed our pricing on all products, loans, transactions, savings, etc. And we believe our products are going to be more accessible and affordable to people. So with all that, we believe that we are ready now to start this campaign and get more people joining the community. We want to grow the community to an extent that it will have an impact on the country in general, but we also want everyone that joins the community to feel and that he or she is growing personally by partnering with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO Diane, for that Nanjini Baker outlook. I think for the people that are following us on this live feed, that was a great explanation of our campaign, and we look forward to enhancing it to have a bigger community, I believe. So I think we have no further questions. We'll wind up this press conference, and for people who didn't follow, perhaps we'll be sharing a press release as well as, we do have a question? Okay, I'm told we have a question. Okay, so this is from Simon Kamuzinzi, Kigali Today. And he says, abahinzi bazahabwa inguzanyo ku nyungu yangahe kugira ngo batinyuke kuyisaba ku gihe yaba ari ntoya. And this question is directed to CEO Diane.
Arakoze Simon Kamuzinzi. So hari programs zitandukanye zigira ku bahinzi, hari product gahunda yitwa SIDAT dukorana naho na government of Rwanda na BRD, aho abahinzi babona inguzanyo iri kuri ku nyungu ya 8%, iri hasi cyane. Hari izindi programs zitandukanye zo gufasha abahinzi cyane cyane bohereza ibihingwa byabo mu mahanga, export, bo bahabwa inguzanyo kuri rate iri hasi, nayo iri 12%. Ariko abandi bahinzi bari mu bucuruzi busanzwe bo bahabwa inguzanyo kuri rates zisanzwe 14, 15, 16%, depending on the business and the risk profile. Ariko nkuko Madame Beata yabivuze, mu seko no muri BKGI hatangwa ubwishingizi mu buhinzi. So murabona ko BK Group yatekereza abahinzi n'aborozi ku buryo ibaha inguzanyo ariko kabaha n'ubwishingizi, kandi iyo umuhinzi afite ubwishingizi bitera n'imbaraga bank kumuha inguzanyo, kuko abazi ko hari kibaye, hari wenda ibihe byahindutse, umuhinzi ntabone umusaruro, azabona compensation from the insurance. So muri rusange tubona ko ari gahunda nziza kandi izatuma ubuhinzi butera imbere mu Rwanda. Murakoze.
Yes, murakoze cyane CEO Diane. Certainly we have more questions coming in, and we have another from and this one says, as the government has put more effort in mining, is BK planning in financing the mining sector? This is from Alex Kajina, New Times.
So I think we are always open to looking at opportunities. When we see a good business, we see a good risk profile, we are always happy to entertain discussions with investors and see if we can finance. So yes, we have appetites, clearly, but we'll be looking, of course, at individual projects. But yeah, I want to confirm that we have appetite. We believe it's a very important sector for economy that is going to improve exports and also bring enough foreign exchange in the country.
Thank you, CEO Diane. Now we have another question from Olive Hete, and this one is from RBA, and it says, Q1, the report mentions a significant increase in USD, impacting logistics and overall costs. Could you elaborate on the strategies employed by the bank to manage this currency fluctuation and still achieve a positive growth we see in the 2023 results?
So indeed, I think we've seen our currency depreciating by 18% against the dollar in the past year. Traditionally, historically, this depreciation was always below 10%, single digit, 5, 6%, around there. And for the first time in many years, it reached 18%. I believe this is not a Rwanda phenomenon only. We've seen the US dollar appreciating across the world vis-a-vis major currencies on the continent and beyond. So we are lucky because the bulk of our business is in local currency. So the loans that we give to our clients are mainly in local currency, so these do not get affected. Now, we have some few loans that we give in dollars, but these mainly target exporters who also get revenues in dollars. And the regulation is very clear. We cannot lend in foreign currency to companies or to people who do not have revenue in foreign currency. So because of that, we are pretty much hedged. We only lend in dollars to people who get dollars in revenues, and then they pay us back in dollars. So where this depreciation has hit us hard, as our CFO mentioned, is on the cost side, because we have a number of contracts, long-term contracts we've signed with suppliers of goods and services, especially in the technology space. We have contracts on licenses for systems that we use, including the likes of Microsoft, etc. So all these contracts are denominated in foreign currency. So in fact, when the foreign currency appreciates or our currency depreciates, that means our costs are higher. And there's not so much that we can do about it. We have internal strategies to see how we can maybe pay these some of these invoices early on, as opposed to waiting at the end of the year, because that will be sort of helping us to hedge or reduce the impact on our OPEX. So this is what we are looking at currently. But we cannot, as a company, we cannot really manage a depreciation, because this is a macro phenomenon. But we are working with all stakeholders to see what can be done. And the main thing that can be done is to increase our exports, to improve availability of foreign currency. And we are working with all stakeholders, including the government, to see how we can promote exports from Rwanda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO Diane. I think now we come to the end of our virtual press conference. I believe we have answered all the questions that were sent through the chat box. Now, as we wind up, also allow me to thank the media and everyone that tuned in for our live presser. But before we go, allow me to invite CEO Berta for your closing remarks.
I think I just want to thank you for attending this call. We're publishing our financial results, but I take also the opportunity to really thank all the BK staff across all of our companies for the hard work, the commitment, the way they went the extra mile to push forward the agenda and to be able to present such a result. And also thank for all the shareholders and investors who believe in us. Thank you and have a nice day.